This week on Women Who Rise, I'm joined by the legendary Don Yoakum, world champion athlete, real estate growth architect, and the visionary behind Pro Insight. We're talking about what it really takes to outperform the competition, build a business that lasts, and rise above the noise in a crowded market. If you're ready to think bigger, lead differently, and operate with the discipline of an Olympian, you cannot miss this episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Women Who Rise. I'm your host, Heather Mansy. Today's guest is Don Yoakum, a world-class business strategist, former windsurfing world champion, and one of the most respected growth leaders in modern real estate. Don began his career selling 51 homes in his first year before going on to build 10 Keller Williams brokerages from the ground up, including one that became the most profitable in a 935 office network. He later joined eXp Realty, where he built a thriving organization of more than 1,000 agents while mentoring leaders across the country. Today, he is the founder and chief revenue officer of Pro Insight, a cutting-edge platform helping referral-based professionals become modern-day advisors and build scalable, sellable businesses. Don's philosophy blends Olympic-level discipline, systems-driven growth, and a deep commitment to improving the lives of the people he serves. Thank you so much for joining us today, Don.
Thank you. Gosh, that was wonderful. I hope I can live up to that.
You already have. So I have a couple questions for you. And first of all, just to say what an honor it is to have you. I get to have just a lot of amazing entrepreneurs on my show. And it is no loss to me that you established those 10 Keller Williams, and we're a partner in another 20. It is extraordinary. And it just shows that you weren't able to just run successful businesses. You were able to start them from the ground up, which I think is a very special skill. When you look back at your earliest career memories, whether in business or even from your days as an elite athlete, what experiences first revealed your drive to rise and compete at a higher level?
Gosh, I would say that my initial exposure to competition was through my dad, who was a very successful archer, two-time national champion, and also windsurfer. In fact, I think he was Masters world champion. And
Wow.
so he played a great influence on me in terms of my competitive spirit and teaching me the philosophy that I would say Tony Robbins has popularized, which is constant, never-ending improvement. He
Mm.
taught me to just be relentless in my pursuit of just making things better, showing up stronger with better equipment, better prepared, better team, and just never resting on your laurels, because I assure you, your competition is not.
Yes, and I think that's so well taken. We are in a tighter industry today than we were in days past. We just came through 23 and 24, which had been challenging in terms of, sort of taking the cream of the crop realtors and retaining those, but a lot who were either newer to the industry or not as well dug in to leave the industry. And now we're starting to see, again, a little more production, I think, in 25, but it hasn't really been amazing. So, there are days when an agent can feel a little bit like they're fighting for their share of the market, and you're fighting against, or not fighting against, but you are competing against people who are, probably at or near the top of their game in terms of being able to, do business well. So it's an interesting environment to find ourselves in. It's one of the reasons that I was so excited to have you on the show, because as someone who's built so many businesses, and in particular in real estate, you're someone who has had the opportunity to and had a hand in, I would say, the success of quite a few women. And this is an opportunity for me to find out from you what in teaching women and helping them and maybe watching them in different competitive atmospheres, you think is, sets us a little bit apart, whether good, bad, or ugly, that is informative when it comes to either teaching and helping women, or even, being one, as I am, in, achieving greatness and going for something maybe above the comfort zone of where you are today.
Yeah, for sure. Well, because I know you lead a very successful team yourself, and I know you're wanting to make a great difference with your message. I did a little bit of research in preparation for our meeting as well, and I was asking ChatGPT. I go, well, what does it look like in terms of sales in the U.S.? And by the way, 62% of this, roughly, of the salespeople today are women. And
Yes.
it was funny because I then went on to say, I asked, okay, well, who's selling more, men or women? And they did not have statistically valid data, but the kind of the rough answer is that men tend to do more and
Hmm.
women tend to do it better. And I thought that was so funny because that's probably true. If you look at a lot of the top 10 in most of the companies, they do tend to be dominated by men, although there are some amazing examples of women leaders. Tina Call, for example, I would say
Oh, yes.
arguably runs one of the best production teams in the United States today. I have
Yes.
great respect for her. On a more local basis, Stephanie Peck runs one of the better
Mhm.
boutique teams that I'm aware of in the country. Jerry Ann Trent is more of a solo entrepreneur, but she does an amazing job in Tennessee. So I guess what I would, if if I were a woman today in business, I would say, well, if you have 10 homes to get sold, maybe you should hire a man. But if you want it to get done right, hire a woman.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so
That's a great
the
statistic. I love that.
well, as you mentioned, I've built many companies, and I can say that, like, for example, when I was building those 10 kW market centers in Northern California, uh, if I had not had Deborah Romeo at my side, keeping things organized, the I's dotted, the T's crossed, I would have been a train wreck, right? Because there was so much going on,
Okay.
right? And she just had my back
Yes.
and made sure that we did things in a compliant way, and I could just trust her implicitly. And today, Megan Peer is that person for me. And in every
Mhm.
business that I've had, I've always had key roles filled by women that would balance my drive, right? So, as a male and as a high D, with an asterisk, that is, I'm referring to the DISC profile, uh, we tend to do a lot, and that creates a lot of chaos. And so then if we need to surround ourselves by people that are going to be able to right the ship, so to speak, and keep things on the rails. And so, you know, it's really, what is your strength? But I would say that if a woman wants to rise, then one of the things to do is to look at her unique abilities and then to match that up. Like I think of Sheryl Sandberg with Mark Zuckerberg, right? there's not a snowball's chance in hell that Facebook would be what it is today if it weren't for Cheryl, right?
Absolutely.
So there's different roles that we play, but I was totally cracking up when I was doing that research, and I'm like, if you want the people that do the most are the men, but the people that do it the most efficiently are the best are the women. And I was like, oh geez.
I love that AI has was so astutely able to sort that out. So, pivoting here just a moment, was there a moment early in your journey when you realized you weren't just building a career, but building capacity for leadership and legacy among and in your organizations? And what sparked that awareness?
Yeah, well, I've always been one to want to create opportunity for others. If you, in a service industry, as I have been most of my career, what typically happens is people own jobs. They actually don't even have a business. If they leave the scene of the operation, even for a few weeks, the whole thing collapses. And so I didn't want that for myself, my family, or the people that I'm around. And uh, Gary Keller would guide us when I spent a good tenure there, as you know. And,
Yes.
he said that, in order to attract and retain talent, you need to have an opportunity big enough for them, right?
Mhm.
And so I always would ensure that I was moving fast enough that I could attract talent into my world so that they could have as much or more opportunity than they ever wanted within my world. In other words, I don't want someone to feel like that they have to leave me to go pursue the greatest opportunity that they can, right?
Yes.
So, but what that does is it requires me to go at a pretty high pace because there's some really dynamic women out there, and men for that matter, that have
Mhm.
big goals and dreams. And if you're not willing to run with them, they'll find somebody else to run with.
Yeah, and I think that's such good advice. I thought that it was, yeah, Gary who had coined that phrase. Basically, that you need to make sure that the ship that you're in is big enough for the dreams of the others that you bring along the way, and you have to evolve that over time. It's not a static thing. I'm watching just the growth of people in my own company, and I actually found myself creating different echelons of like agent positions and things like that where they felt that they had room to go up because people want, accolade, or they want status, or they want a greater income, or they want a different balance of how their career works. And if you're not having your finger on that pulse and understanding that, then you're missing a great opportunity to lead. Um, you've reinvented yourself multiple times from athlete, which I would love for you to talk about that a little bit, to agent to founder. What was the challenge that forced the biggest evolution in you time over time? And what internal shifts allowed you to overcome challenges or stopping places where you found yourself having to kind of reach for that next rung on the ladder?
Yeah, great question. So I'll begin with the athletic portion because that was more of my beginning into the competitive arena.
Mhm.
And that was, I think what a lot of people underestimate about athletics is the amount of discipline it requires to prepare not only yourself, but your equipment and your team and your mindset and so forth. Because when we're really young, we're growing at different paces and so forth. And some people are more naturally gifted in some ways than others. And y- we'll think, oh well, gosh, that guy's got all this ability, and maybe he does. But I have seen so many people sabotage themselves. I was actually here in the Columbia River Gorge at a professional race and windsurfing race, that is. And my wife was shooting photography of the races, and in particular of the starts. And I just noticed when I went back and reviewed all of that film, that in the early heats, so it was a double elimination slalom event, that in the early heats, myself and a few other people there were 8 of us in each heat, would be right on the line when the gun went off, right? You had to time, it was a time start, so you had to hit the line going, 15, 20 miles an hour. So there was a lot of calculations that are going on there, right? Well, in the early photos, I could see there were people like 100 meters behind the starting line. Okay, so my point is, those people had lost the race before the gun had even gone off.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And it was fascinating to watch and look at her photos, because every heat you went forward, the pack got tighter. And in the finals, virtually everyone was on the line and within one boat length of that start line when the gun went off. As a matter of fact, one of the
Okay.
competitors protested me because he said that I must have been over the line. But the people that are tracking that are on the boat and they can see, and your line
They
of
can
sight when
see.
you're, yeah, they could see
Yeah.
that I was not. I was close, mind you. And by the way, when you're going 20 miles an hour, 10 feet is like a fraction of a second. Okay.
Yes, that's
So,
true.
yeah, but my point is that, um, are you preparing to win? Right. And so there's so much to that. And, I'll give you just a couple more examples. The people that would then reach the echelon of professional windsurfer, we would have 5 rigs completely set up on the beach so that if the wind went up or down, we were prepared. And at the last minute, we could take that sail, pop it in the board, and go to the water, right? Like, if the wind drops, because that's nature, right? You're going to have this fluctuating situation. And all of a sudden, you have to go rush and prepare and put your rig together. You're so stressed, and then you might be late, like this person was 100 meters behind the line, right? My point is that if all you do is show up on time, you're already going to beat 80% of the competition, right? And it's and it made me think, by the way, about, again, going back to this thing between men and women, is that if women would just enter the fray, if they would put themselves into the battle, the competition, whatever the race, whatever it is, more often, they clearly are more efficient at getting things done, right? It's just they're not getting as many at bats,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
right?
This is something
So,
consistently I've heard, and I love this. Do continue.
yeah, so, okay. So my point there, though, really is that just because I started as an athlete, there was so much more. Okay, I not only had to make sure that my equipment was prepared, but I had to make sure that I had sponsorship so that I could actually afford to attend these events all over the world, right? And also be able to afford to continually upgrade my equipment, because at the time I was in the sport was evolved. It's kind of like AI right now. Every week there's something new. The reason why I won a world championship, by the way, is because that particular race, my sail that I was using happened to be superior to that of the world champion, and I beat him because of it. Not because I was better, but because my
Amazing.
equipment was materially better, right? Now, the
Yes.
next race, by the way, he beat me again, but he showed up with better equipment, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, it is when Brian Tracy, who I'm sure you're familiar with, he has
Yes.
a process, a strategy called mind storming. And he says, whenever you have a BHAG, big, audacious goal, a good exercise is to identify 20 things that you could do in order to achieve that objective, right? So even over this last weekend, there was a particular project that I'm working and supporting Justin Stoddard, the CEO of Pro Insight. He wanted to achieve a particular objective, in this case, to help a professional build to 30 members in 30 days in their community. And so I did that exercise. I did that 20 and 20, and I sent it to him over the weekend. But most people, don't take the time to come up with the 20 ideas, and they certainly don't take the time to actually do the 20 ideas. So if you will be a person that will discipline yourself to ask the question, what could I do to be better, faster, quicker, more efficient? And then actually set a priority of those things. And oftentimes by the way, you don't do all 20. Maybe you just pick out. I've found, by the way, that in terms of strategic objectives, it's probably best to not choose more than one a quarter, right? So there's strategic things, and then there's tactical ones. You can fit a bunch of tactical in, or you can even delegate those. But anyway, the point is to have the awareness to do those things. And so, like I said, my dad taught me to just have that relentless pursuit of improvement. Tony Robbins, I think, doesn't he call that what is the saying he uses? Constant, never-ending improvement, I think, is the term that he uses.
Yes.
But
yes,
anyway,
he's a fan of saying take massive action.
Well, yeah, that, right? Absolutely. So anyway, when I got into business, by the way, it was I used the same exact strategy, but I would say that if there was a common denominator of my strategy in sports, and then I carried into business, it was to model the success of successful people that had gone before me. Right. So
Yes.
when I grew up in Sacramento, California, I started windsurfing at 14. At 16, I said to my dad, hey, I'm the best here. If I'm going to progress, I got to move to the Bay Area, which I did. And then I came back from that summer and I'm like, hey, Dad, if I'm going to get better, I got to go to Florida in the winter, which I did. And then I got onto the United States Olympic team. And so I was always asking myself, I never said, oh, well, I'm in Sacramento, so this is my world. I'm number one. Nobody can beat me in Sacramento. Well, that's just a little pond. Okay. Believe me, when I went to the Bay Area, they smoked me at first. And then when I went to Florida, it was even worse. Okay. But,
Yes.
it turns out if you copy people long enough and precisely enough, and then add a little bit of your own medicine, sometimes you win.
I think that's fantastic. Just being able to see that you had the inner strength and desire to be okay with being uncomfortable. Because those circumstances certainly must have caused, like you say, discomfort. They were smoking you, on the water when you first went to the Bay Area, San Francisco area, and then again, even worse, when you went for your winters in Florida. And it just shows that if you want to be, at a higher level and winning or beating someone at a higher game, you cannot be complacent and hanging out where it feels good and feels comfortable and feels nice, because you can enjoy that and you can bask in that, but your goals are not going to be able to increase. And so to increase and change from the life you have now, everybody's got whatever that comfort zone is. And like you said, you were someone who was really okay with wanting to achieve bigger things and understanding that there was an exchange that comes with it, which is that you got to, leave the comfort zone. You've got to go for that continuous improvement. And I love the fact that you pointed out modeling people who were better than you and doing so in what you said, a very, very strategic and precise way, copying those people precisely, I think was your wording. And I just think that's interesting, because there are people out there that go, gee, I don't know if I can do this. There's this other guy who's doing it, or other gal, but I don't want to copy them. That's weird, or my ego can't handle that because, I'm not creating. And I love the concepts. You really don't need to reinvent every wheel. And some of the people who are out there, like you said, becoming Olympians, in fact, learned to copy and to study who is doing that successfully. How did that inform very specifically having brokerages? Who did you look to? Because one of my questions is actually, throughout your rise, who were the individuals or philosophies that shaped your leadership style and your success style? And then how do those lessons show up in fact, how you build your organization continually today?
Yeah, great question. So in 2000, I was being recruited to become the team leader of Keller Williams Roseville, which was the first Keller Williams franchise in Northern California. And it's funny because the operating partner at that time, that brokerage had a license plate, which was Keller Who, because they were virtually unknown at that time. I think there was
Wow.
9,600 or something in the whole country, right? And so as part of the recruitment process, remember, I knew about modeling and I said, well, because I could in Roseville, I was looking at the franchise that was there and they were losing money. There was only 13 agents. It was not impressive at all. And so I said, well, if you want me to do this, you're going to need to introduce me to somebody that's succeeding at the highest level. And so they flew me out to Dallas to meet with Gene Frederick. And I got to Dallas Preston Road and I got to sit down with Gene. And Gene and I are both kind of numbers guys. And he used to be a CPA. And so it was really fun meeting with him because we were pouring over all the financials. And I could see clearly that his market center was highly profitable. And he goes, and by the way, Don, because he could see that I was really fascinated with being able to see all of the numbers there and by line item revenue and expense, et cetera. And he goes, by the way, you're going to have access to every franchise's numbers every month. And I'm like, are you
All the
kidding
time.
me? I'm going to be able to see what everyone else is doing. And he's like, yeah, it's online. Right. And so what I did with my team is I ended up, as you know, building a lot of market centers and owning even more. And so what I finally did is we had at Keller Williams, we had 3 different phases. So we had launch, new ones. We had
Hmm.
growth. I think that was like 18 months to 36 months. And then we had achievement. So what I did is I had my team identify the top 5 performing market centers in each of those categories, put them into an Excel spreadsheet, and then take our market centers that were in those respective categories. And we just went and looked at each line item. Hey, wait a second. Why is Heather's team spending less on supplies than we are? Right. So then I would call up Heather. Hey, Heather, what are you guys doing? Well, we went digital, Don. What are you back in Stone Ages? Come on. Right. And so we would then start copying these franchises from all over the country because I could just look at the P&L and see that their costs and that one line item was half mine. So that
Fantastic.
informed us, right? And then what do we
Yeah.
do? Now, I will tell you, that doesn't mean you can't use your own personality, but after having 30 brokerages and 5,000 agents working in them, I can tell you time and time again, the people that are coachable, when they show up kind of with humility, like, okay, who's got this going on in the best way possible? And what can I learn from them? And then after they have gained a competence and they're performing, I'll call it at a good or high level, then you
Hmm.
add your personality because everyone has a unique ability and you want to play to that strength. But what you need is a foundation that's solid. The people that I've had I had Stanford MBAs come and work for me, and they're so
Hmm.
damn smart, they would want to do it their own way. They could not sell themselves out of a paper bag, right? Because
Yes.
they knew better.
Yes. That ability to remain coachable. And I think this goes out to, I know myself as an employer and anyone, who's watching this that is an employer or is potentially going to be an employer of others. I always say that I hire for two things: kindness and no ego, because I can actually work with anything else. I can, I want true kindness because I get to choose as an employer. I get to actually choose who works for me and who becomes a part of my organization in whatever capacity. And then the other is no ego, to say that it's just an ego as a defense mechanism that's way out in front. And it does assume, like you said, with those MBAs or whatever, that or Stanford graduates, that they already know what they need to know. And that creates a barrier to learning. And learning is the only way that I can have quality control. And it's also the only way that I can assure someone's success. So it's no surprise to me, with, my gosh, 5,000 agents, and decades of running, multiple 30 brokerages, that humility. And I love that phrasing of that word. Actually, it just assumes that they understand already. They're there to learn, because otherwise, if they knew it all, why are they not already wildly successful? That is phenomenal. Another question that I wanted to ask you: you often talk about alignment, discipline, and differentiation. Which specific habits or mindsets became non-negotiable for you as you grew into a leader capable of scaling companies? And I'm sure, this kind of leans into the fact that you were responsible for so many. And I know you had mentioned your operations person or personnel were so critical to your success as a driver, and let's just call it also visionary, rather than like that integrator role. But what in your own life, with discipline and differentiation and so forth, has allowed you to become such a leader and be able to scale those companies?
Yeah, great question. Well, first of all, you part of that humility, I think, also comes with just showing up with a attitude that you're going to underpromise and overdeliver,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
I would tell my agents that I was coaching for preparing for a listing, for example, prepare for nuclear warfare, but if all you need to get the listing is a pea shooter, by all means, just use the pea shooter, because the
Yes,
referrals that you will receive in your business will be proportionate to the extent that you exceed the client's expectations. Okay,
love
that's
that.
worth repeating. Your referrals will be proportionate to the extent you exceed your client's expectations. So, what happens so often, we come in with all these bells and whistles, and we're thinking we're all the stuff. And let me tell you, because I've done it. You come in there with your 21-point listing point. Well, guess what? You might sell their home in 72 hours, but if you only do 19 of the 21 things, they're like, well, you didn't actually do everything you said, you know? And so just be
Yes,
careful with
you're
that, you
overpromising.
know?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
don't
I'm going
set
to
yourself
say
up
the
for
first,
failure.
that's right. And so one of the key disciplines I want you to hear then is to be very careful with the commitments that you make, because you want to gain a reputation as a person that does what they say, right? Dan Sullivan, a strategic coach, he says there's 4 rules of referability. And the number one is showing up on time, right?
Mhm.
Like today, to meet you, I showed up 3 minutes early. Guess what? You were already there, you know? So the second one is do what you say, which is, under promise, uh, over deliver. The third one is finish what you start. You need to be a you need to have a reputation of a person
Mhm.
that isn't a quitter. Okay.
Yes.
And then the fourth one is say please and thank you. Right.
Oh, yes.
Right. So you know what these are right here? These are cards going out. Okay.
I
Just
see
good old
that.
fashioned. Right? So, how often do we receive a personalized handwritten note at our home and it's not our birthday or Christmas,
Yes. It's
right?
not
So
often. Yeah, it's something we've allowed to fall by the wayside in favor of these very kind of fast ways of communicating. Or even if you are going to be a social media person, leaving a comment like this instead of the, thumbs up, actually putting some thought into, or even just messaging the person privately to say, wow, congrats on whatever just happened. But I love the handwritten. I hope that we're gonna resurge some of that stuff because personally, it makes a difference. And you at your level, the fact that you're still doing that, I really think it's instructive.
yeah, well, I think regardless of the level, the
Mhm.
higher that you go, your humility counts even more. Like, I'll never forget meeting Warren Buffett personally. I used to be
Yeah.
a Berkshire Hathaway
Wow.
shareholder. And so
Oh,
we were at an event. Now, mind you, the guy's surrounded on four sides by four big bodyguards, right? But he's a very approachable individual. And,
wow.
uh, and so I walked up to him, um, and, I said, gosh, Warren, thank you for all you do, and put out my hand to shake it. He shook my hand and he goes, well, thank you for taking the time to be here. I mean, just as nice and friendly as he could be. It
I
was
love
it was
that.
such a now my by the way, that's the entire extent of my interactions with Warren Buffett, right? So that's the other thing to keep in mind is that you might only have a moment with someone. Be sure that that moment leaves them with the impression that you're a good, caring person and that you care about their interest, not just serving your
Yes.
own.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that because we really have the opportunity. It's like I say to the agents, it's a real honor to be able to help someone in the largest financial transaction in their life, buying or selling real estate, which they may only do a handful of times, if only once. And it's a real honor to be able to serve them in this capacity. And you really have the chance to give them a very clear picture of you, the person, and make sure that no matter if the transaction goes upside down and backwards, if you at least show up for them and show up with humility and grace. And I wrote down the word grace actually, or graciousness, because I think that was a really good description with Warren Buffett of that trait. And if you can just show grace to people, and in fact, when things go wrong, I think is the best time when you can actually show grace as well. I love that. As someone who leads
By
teams,
the way,
builds, yes,
before you leave that point, because you just brought something up that I think your listeners should remember, is that don't fear things going wrong.
yes,
Okay. Like,
yeah,
for example, in a real estate transaction, there,
yes,
thank God things go wrong because otherwise a computer could do our job. Okay. And so in fact, I've often said that our ability to earn will be based in proportion to the size of the problem that we can solve. Okay. So it's not that your job is to ensure that nothing's going to go wrong. Okay. You don't
yes,
have control over every element of a transaction. Your job is to take that situation and do the best you can with the circumstances that you've been given, right? And they will say that your character will be revealed by adversity, right? So it's not
yes.
that we need to avoid adversity, but let's be revealed as a person that we would want in the game when things get really rough,
So good.
right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely fantastic. This is, I think, such good food for thought, especially with, newer agents, they say, oh, this transaction wasn't very smooth, maybe the next one. And I say, you're in the wrong ballpark. You're in the wrong business because it's not really necessarily the way things go. There's too many moving parts to say it's perfectly smooth. Anyway, that definition will change once they've been an agent for 5 years. They'll think some of the harder ones were in fact quite smooth, and they, it'll be very different. Their whole marker and measuring stick will change so much. Um, as someone who leads teams, builds companies, and trains high performing professionals, how do you maintain your own well-being and stay grounded while operating at such a high level?
Yeah, well, there's quite a number of things that I do. First is, uh, they say early to bed, early to rise, right? So
Yeah.
I ensure that I do get to bed early, particularly during the week, and I get up at 5:15, and I follow the exact same routine every single day. And I have some warm lemon water, and I then do my Duolingo study. I think today I had my daily they tell Duolingo tells you how many consecutive days you've been doing. I think I'm 2,435, right? And which is a good long
And you said
streak.
that was do Ingles? I think I don't know about
Duolingo,
this. Oh,
Duolingo. It's a
Duolingo. Yes,
yes,
Duolingo. Yes.
yeah, it's a language app. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I do that, and then I go over my schedule for the day, right? And of course I have my time blocked. And that's another thing I would say
Mhm,
is a mark of the people. If you want to reveal somebody, you would look at their calendar
mhm.
and you would look at their bank statement. Okay. So
Yeah.
how one spends their time and money tells so much about you, right? And so then, in terms of my other disciplines, of course, I have a fitness one. I work out 6 days a week, right? And, that is, I'm now, I'm soon gonna reach, I'm gonna qualify for Social Security here in a few months. I'm gonna be 62 years old.
65. Oh, 62. Okay. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but, it's funny because I was riding my bicycle around Lake Tahoe, this was a couple of years ago, and a friend of mine, Jesse, was saying I was complaining, uh, I was in the 50s then, and I was complaining about how I was a little slower these days, and he goes, "Just shut up, Don. You would beat most 30-year-olds, right?" And the thing of it is that it all ties together, right? You will notice that the most successful people tend to also be fit and of high energy, right? And that is not by accident, right? So I I'm not the smartest tool in the box, but I can tell you that uh, it will be. I just I'm very difficult to beat because I'm going to show
Yeah.
up fit and I'm just going to be relentless. And you're going to knock me down and I'm going to get back up. And you're going to knock me down again and I'm just going to get back up. And after a while, you're just going to get tired of knocking me down because I'm just going to get back up. Right. So the
Yeah.
discipline there is first to show up prepared and fit, and then also just have a mindset that as long as what you're doing is still in alignment with your mission and your vision and your values, with your
Mhm.
family and your personal faith, do not relent. Right. It, it is, it is, it's so easy to be among the best if you just will stay in the game. right? And that was the funny thing when
Yes.
I was doing that
Yeah.
research in preparation to talk with you, I realized the reason why men are the majority of the leaderboards is just because they're in the game more. Right now, to be
Yes,
fair, women often are also raising families and things like that, but now,
exactly.
right, we're seeing that pendulum is actually swinging, and
Mhm.
after fortunately, in our career, that you and I are in real estate, you know, you at 62, you cannot be a professional windsurfer or even athlete, but you can
Yes.
be an amazing realtor, right? So once you become an empty nester, your women, they can rise right to the top if they will just get in there and start swinging.
Yes. Well, and I love this line of discussion, and I love real estate as an occupation for that reason. Number one, when your kids are younger, as a woman, when your kids are younger, you can actually have that flexibility. And in fact, when you're having children, because I've had, I think, three babies born on my team, three or four, and I loved having that opportunity because we just put a changing table in the bathroom, and made sure there was a breastfeeding area, and it was fantastic. And I mean, there's whole videos of me teaching my team holding someone's toddler on my lap. And, it was just for a period of time, I've got the toddler and I'm teaching whatever at our regular meeting. And I've had young gals who wanted a 5-month maternity leave. And so they simply, man, if you wanna see someone work hard, you talk about like a 6-month pregnant woman working hard to plan and afford her own maternity leave and get all the baby things they want. She was phenomenal. She was doing 5, 7, 8 transactions a month, bought herself 5 months off, not a word, and was able to come back to work. And within 6 weeks, because she had gained such a great skill set, and she was a year and a half into real estate from owning a cleaning company as a young person, and within 6 weeks had 5 more deals on the table, coming back from a complete and total absolute 5-month pause. There's so few jobs, I think, in the US where you can really have something like that. And then, like you said, if you're becoming that empty nester, I love this career for empty nesters because you're missing a component of your family that you're used to having around. It's I think, extremely hard emotionally on moms, and they're trying to find, what to do to fill the time. And I think real estate is one of those jobs, or taking up, any type of business where you can create a vessel for that energy and for that nurturing spirit and be able to use it so well. I love that for women. Is why I love this career. And one thing you mentioned, do not relent, and I underlined that. It really took me back to someone you mentioned early on, and that's Brian Tracy, that, a plan well laid plus regular continuous effort plus time, and most of your competition will drop off before that element of time can really work its magic. Um yeah, I just think that's incredible. Um You've partnered with and coached many extraordinary women throughout your career. What have those experiences taught you about leadership, collaboration, and rising together in business?
Yeah, I've learned a lot from women, probably most from my wife, perhaps and my mom, but also, as you say, from the women that I've teamed with to build these companies, that the probably one of the most valuable skills that women seem to possess in greater degrees generally is empathy. When we are serving, like in the real estate business, we're serving people during what is arguably the biggest transaction of their life. Often, particularly right now, it's associated with life events. So big things are happening and they tend to be stressful. And so if you can show up with an empathetic soul, uh, then boy, that really makes a difference. And also, I would say just another amazing book that I would encourage everyone to read if they have not, and if they have, even to read it again, is Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yes.
You know, the
Yes.
thing that women seem to do is they're not always the fastest out of the gate. The guys tend to push
Mhm.
themselves into the front of the line, and maybe even have the majority of the early successes. But the
Mhm.
women will ultimately prevail with superior system and process. So if you will continually work on your system and process refinement, deliver service with empathy, and then be relentless, no one's going to keep you from the top.
Yeah. Yeah. I think phenomenal. And it's so much hope, for the people that are listening to this and that I've always wanted to convey is that, there's this concept of imposter syndrome, or I'm getting into the workplace too late, or I'm finally launching the career I'm passionate about, or the business that I am launching too late. I won't be able to catch up. Maybe I did the kid thing, or maybe I, had to support elderly family members, or help them with healthcare, whatever that is. And now women are saying, okay, it's time for me, my passion, my job, my whatever. I want to go with some big goals, but I don't know if I'm fit for purpose. But the guys are not necessarily, as you're pointing out, questioning that so much. They're just willing to launch it, just get out there. And this really gives a lot of credibility, that an AI saying that women literally can dominate on systems and process, even if, yes, they may be entering the game a little later than they might like, or that we would like them to enter. And I think the other one is to just go, be brave and go for it, because you have the capacity to be just as good or better than any guy out there who's going for a goal. Know that you're going to get a little uncomfortable, but you can do it. And in fact, you could really win. I just think that gives so much, courage to women that are maybe watching this and questioning their ability. So I want to be responsible for your time, based on everything you witnessed in this industry. What guidance would you give? And in fact, what are three non-negotiable principles? Although this is a little unfair because you gave us four that were so good, that you believe every specific leader, because I think those were partly as well to anyone starting out in a challenging occupation. What are three non-negotiable principles that you believe every leader must adopt to drive consistent growth and properly care for the people that are under their employ?
Yeah, great question. So, well, first and foremost, I think that in order to be an effective leader, you've got to be leading a mission that you deeply believe in, and
Mm.
that other people that join that mission will share a similar passion, right? So what do they say that people will come miles to watch a fire? Man, you want to just be burning with passion and desire for
Wow.
what you're doing, right? And
Mhm.
so that would be a good start. And then I would say, as we discussed earlier, you've also then got to be willing to create enough opportunity so the biggest and best are going to want to join your mission, so, because they know that you are going to create opportunity for them, right? And even, by the way, even if that meant having to send someone on their way, the people
Yes.
that align with you need to know that you have their best interests in mind, right? And, my wife happened to work in one of our offices. Actually, she worked in the Roseville office, the one that became the most profitable in
Oh,
KW for a
wow.
time. And
Yes.
and she, you know, I don't know what it is about you, but you're when you fire somebody, they they're hugging you. Why are they hugging you? You know?
Uh-huh.
And It's because that person that I let them go to pursue what they should have been pursuing. They were
Yes.
clearly in the wrong role, okay?
Yes.
They are a
Mhm.
gifted individual. They just weren't gifted for the role that I had them in. That does not
Yes.
make them a bad person, okay?
Mm.
It just meant that I had a bad fit, right? And
Yes.
so my job as a leader is to identify that sooner versus later
Mhm.
and say, "Hey, you know what? We may have made a miscalculation here. I've been thinking about your gifts, and I want to introduce you to this other individual because she has an opportunity that I believe you will prosper in, right?" And
Yes.
then you make that introduction if it's appropriate. Now, if you fired somebody on basis of ethical or moral
Mm.
reasons, of course, I'm not going to introduce them to one of my colleagues, right? But
Yes.
um, you know, but I would even tell that person, I would say, "Hey, you know what? You are an extremely gifted person. This act that you did seems very out of your character. Because of that, I'm
Mhm.
having to let you go." Okay? But just don't do that again because you are
Yeah.
a gifted person and you could do great things and make a big difference. Be that person as you go forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Just the concept of, coaching people for value so that, if you're having a conversation, even if it's a difficult one, even if it's a ending one, that there's the opportunity to make a contribution there and where you can do that. Really, that sounds like leadership, to me. Um, as you look ahead, both with your work at Pro Insight and your broader impact, what's the vision or legacy you hope your leadership will leave for the next generation of business builders in your own or other organizations?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'll
Mhm.
address the the thing about Pro Insight that I think will serve our real estate, or I'm going to not just say real estate, but the professional services community. There's really two worlds out there right now. There's the professionals that have primarily worked by referral and
Mhm.
relationship. And up until a couple of years ago, that was great because there was a lot of activity. And assuming that you were a good person with a good sphere of influence, you would tend to do a lot of business. If someone has
Mhm.
300 people, people moved every 10 years, that was 30 opportunities to serve, even if they all went homeless afterward. Okay. The problem is we have a record low transfer rate and
Mhm.
uh, we have also the most challenging affordability situation that we have had on record since we've been keeping the data,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, and you can't just go out and make 300 new friends, right? So, while a relationship referral business is, you could argue pretty optimal, it doesn't scale very well, or at least very quickly. So, then the
Mhm.
flip side of it is that you have this cold marketing. You can buy leads, right? From Google, from Facebook, from Zillow, or wherever else. Okay. The problem is those companies, they're serving not you, they're serving the consumer. And when I say the consumer, what I mean is their agenda is to maximize their revenue. So you'll notice these days that when you click on an ad, like right now, I'm looking into outside little fireplaces, right? Well, what do you think is in my
Yes.
feed? Everywhere now. Okay.
Everywhere outside outdoor fireplaces. Yes.
Exactly. Okay. So what ProInsight is looking to do is to become a warm market multiplier, right? In other words, we're making a warm market business scale and so that it also could later be sold, right? So we say that we will build you a business that is scalable and sellable. And we do that by first aligning a community of professionals together so that they can create somewhat of a cooperative a warm market vehicle for each other. And so anyway, that's my mission, is to fill that
Yeah,
need, because we've got two quite challenging situations, and we're coming in the middle saying, hey, we'll help you scale your business, but do it with a warm market of the other professional partners with whom you work. So anyway, that's what
fantastic.
my mission is to I don't want the professionals to be disintermediated by the computer on the transactional side, right? And unfortunately, those good old folks that work by referral, they're suffering right now just because of the low volume. So anyway, I have two young boys. I have an older daughter that's doing quite well, but my boys are just entering their career path now, and you know, I'm not really sure what they're going to do, okay, to earn money in the future. But what I do tell them is I just say, hey, be a person of value, right? I mean, understand your talents and gifts, right? Find somebody that is built something that has a similar passion to you, but then show up as value, because things are moving so quickly and changing so often. I don't really know how to counsel my sons on, hey, go to this school, take this class, because that might be gone next week, right? I just tell
Yes,
them, show up on time. What did we say? Show up on time, do what you
yes.
say, finish what you start,
Finish
say
what you
please and
start.
thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And by the way, I have added a fifth thing to that, which is you do have to be the best at something. If you want true security in your career, find a niche where you can be number one and be that person, and then you will have no lack of opportunity.
Yes. I love that you added the fifth one because I think it's really instructive. Again, what is this conversation about? I mean, you really just cannot rest on your loyal laurels. You cannot have bad habits, bad personal habits. You cannot have ethical dilemmas or, issues of managing your time, yourself, and expect to be able to get ahead. And I think again, just adding that yes, you do need to figure out where you have your zone of genius, what you are good at, and be able to show that and shine. So, and rise. Yeah. Well, this has
Absolutely.
been such a fabulous conversation, and I just value and appreciate you. I know
Mm.
that our listeners are going to be able to take away so much from your expertise as an employer, a leader, an owner, an entrepreneur, and who is, by the way, continuing no matter what that birthday upcoming says or gives you, the fact that you are always continuing. And so I know that our audience really appreciates you. Thank you so much for joining Women Who Rise.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you, Heather.
Thank you. Well, folks, that's it for today's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on Women Who Rise, the success podcast for ambitious women. Today, Don taught us number one, being a leader, lead a mission that you believe in, and hire those who share a similar passion. Being passionate and believing in the mission, whatever it is you're up to, has the firmest ability for you to then engage others in that path and be able to make sure that people really want to be where you are and that they really want to be part of what it is you are starting. Number two, men tend to be at the starting block faster, but women can dominate with better systems and process. Just saying that overall, there are studies that have been done, and women tend to do a lot of things better, according to Don, and to the research that he took a look at right before getting on the episode. And you heard him say it, women can beat their competition of any gender by simply having better systems and process. Number 3, consistent over improvement. Show up better. Be prepared to win. Are you prepared to win? Showing up is not enough. You need to prepare yourself to be better than the competition if you really want to win. Model others' success precisely. Find a roadmap for whoever has what it is that you want, and really, really study what it is that they are doing. That's really a large reason why we have this show, is so that you guys can get a window into what others are doing who have had success before you, so that you can learn from that. And then number 4, he shared really his 5 tips to success. Number 1, be on time. Number 2, do what you say. Number 3, finish what you start. And number 4, please say please and thank you. He was literally had a stack of cards that were handwritten that he was sending out to clients, even at his level. And then number 5, be the best at something. Have some element of what you do. Be the best, and that may over time that may develop. But be the best at something, and that you will always have a job. You will always. And this advice is so good, I think, not just, of course, for entrepreneurs, but for people in any job and at any time. I think these 5 rules are excellent. And then make sure to visit our website to find our episode guide and worksheet that will help you use these tips to take action in your own life. Like and subscribe, and join us everywhere podcasts are streamed. We can't wait to bring you more incredible content every week so that you can rise in your own lives and careers. Again, thank you so much. Heather Mansy, signing off.